Okay, we are both recording and live streaming.
Thank you very much. Good evening, everyone. This is the Silverton Board of Trustees regular meeting. It is September 14th at 7:01 p.m. and I'm calling this meeting to order. Kelly, roll call, please.
Trustee Barella?
Here.
Trustee Harper?
Here.
Trustee Wager?
Here.
Trustee Bierma?
Here.
Trustee Lashley?
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Barney?
Here.
Mayor Furman?
Here. Administrator Ryder, would you like to lead the Pledge of Allegiance?
Sir. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. Do we have any revisions to this evening's agenda from the staff or any trustees?
Mr. Mayor, we have two. To accommodate a time constraint, we'd like to move the gunfighters up until just after the first public comment. And also we are removing the MJZ road closure request from the agenda.
Got it, thank you. Any trustee updates to the agenda? Great. We will now open for public comment. All comments are limited to 3 minutes on Zoom. If you click raise hand at the bottom of the screen, we'll promote you to talk. I see Gary Davis raising his hand. Gary, if you unmute yourself, you have the floor.
I don't need the floor. I just want you guys to know that I'm watching, I'm paying attention. I'm not too impressed with a whole lot of things I've seen and heard. I'm always here listening. Man, if all these assholes can come to town and race in and out of all these restaurants with no masks, you guys can start having public meetings. And if you want to keep having your secret meetings or the Zoom meetings rather than have them in public, man, I don't know what to say. It's gone on long enough. Get in public, meet your constituents, or I tell you what, stay at home and let the rest of the town deal with the buttheads that come in here and pay no attention to the public health ordinance. I have a whole lot more to say, but that's all I got to say now. And I'll be here the rest of the meeting. See you guys.
Thank you. I do not see any other hands raised. So at this time, we will move to the special event application and fee waiver for the Silverton gunfights. Administrator Ryder, would you like to provide context, or is that something Lisa's been working on?
I would turn that over to Lisa. It's just, I'll preface it by saying it's a historical event that hasn't been active for a little while, and a group is passionately trying to resurrect it, maybe yet for this year, to begin making it more of a regular piece of Silverton summer and beyond. They've made a special application to host it. They've completed it. They've met with OEM and have a plan and are asking for a fee waiver as part of that application. And with that, I would turn it over to Director Branner for any further detail or comment.
I think you've covered most of it, Administrator Ryder, except that I'd like to add they have received all approvals that are necessary, save for the trustees. And I think they're a little bit on the fence about whether or not they're actually going to run the gunfights this year or not, just due to the cost of insurance and the late point that we are in the season. But my counsel to them was to go ahead and apply for the special event permit, so that at least that was in place, and then they could decide which way they wanted to go. And Gibson is on the call tonight if anyone has questions specifically for him. They are requesting that the $100 special event fee be waived for this. And in light of kind of the historic nature of this event, and again, the late point in the season that we're at, it would be my recommendation that the trustees consider waiving that. Gib, I don't know if you have anything to add. I just clicked the button asking you to unmute. So if you do want to speak, you'll need to unmute yourself.
I too support the fee waiver for what it's worth.
I don't see Gib unmuting himself. Any questions for staff or Gib from the trustees? Trustee Wiegert?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This to me seems like it should be a no-brainer here for the board. The application's been filled out. They've got all the COVID stuff dialed in. Staff is comfortable with this, and I'm comfortable with this.
Well, then I would entertain a motion to approve the fee waiver and provide.
So moved.
Do I hear a second?
I will second.
Thank you, Trustee Barella, for the move, and thank you, Trustee Wiegert, for the second. Kelly, roll call, please.
Trustee Barella,
Yes.
Trustee Harper,
Yes.
Trustee Wager,
Yes.
Trustee Beerma,
Yes.
Lashley,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Barney,
Yes.
Mayor Furman.
Yes. Well, thank you very much, Gib, for putting this together, and keep us posted on whether it'll happen this year or if it's something to anticipate for next year. All right. Do we have Anthony Edwards on the panel to update on EPA Regional Director visit?
We do. I see him. Yep. And he's been promoted to panelist.
Hello? Can you hear me?
We can.
Okay, great. So the Regional Aid Administrator for the EPA will be visiting the area on September 23rd and 24th. He'll be in Silverton the day of September 23rd. He's flying in that morning in a Durango, and he'll be here most of the day. The planning group is going to meet with them in the morning time, 10:30 to 11:30. Then they're going to have lunch, and then there's an invitation for the town trustees and the county commissioners. This would be a meeting at the Mayflower Mill for approximately an hour. We may be able to go a little bit longer, but I want to extend that to all of the trustees. I can get more information. Would like to see is there anybody who really would like to meet or who knows they'll be able to meet on that day. Again, that's September 23rd. That's a Wednesday. And that's from 1:30 to 2:30. And there'll be the regional administrator and some different directors from the CDPHE and staff.
Anthony, this is Austin Lashley. I'd really like to meet with you guys when we have that opportunity.
Okay, great. I'm trying to get a COVID count. Go ahead, Trustee Barella.
Yeah, I'd like to be able to go too. What time were you saying?
That's 1:30 to 2:30, and I'll give you some information about what we'll be emphasizing in the morning. You may want to emphasize that or something else. If there is something else, just to let us know so we can speak with one voice, so to speak. And then Trustee Harper, were you wanting to go as well?
Yes, sir, I do.
That's great. So what we'll do, I'll send you what's going out and the latest communications to all of the whole trustee board and administrator writer, of course. And then I'll keep you all posted. There may be some changes. Sometimes that happens, and I just don't want you to be waiting at the Mayflower if we're running an hour late. So I'll make sure everybody that wants to come knows. Right now, I know there'll be administrator writer, Trustee Barella, Trustee Harper, and Trustee Lashley. Mayor Furman, did you want to go as well?
Yeah, we had emailed before about that.
Oh, yeah, okay. So I will make sure that all of you have texts on that day, we're on time or whatever else, and you'll see information before then.
Trustee Lashley, if you would be so kind to email me a good cell phone number for you. I don't have one, as I found out, just so as if this gets late or something, I can ping you with a text. I think I've got everybody else's.
No problem.
Thank you.
Trustee Harper.
Trustee Harper?
Yeah, yes, thank you. Will we be meeting together a little bit prior? Because we would said to speak as one voice. Did you want our opinions or?
Well, my thought was I can send you the information of what we've communicated locally more recently and where we are. And then we could meet in the morning that morning and before the planning group meets with them. So you're aware of what the CAG's conveying as well as what we're conveying.
Thank you.
We'll make it an all-day affair.
I need a reason to play hooky.
Okay. The weather's nice. It should be beautiful. Is there any questions right now concerning that or anything else with the EPA? All right.
Looks like none at this time. Thank you, Anthony.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks, Anthony.
Yeah.
All right. Now we have an update from the Office of Emergency Management as well as Search and Rescue from Jen Donovan and Becky Joyce.
And I do not see them participating, Mr. Mayor. They had confirmed. Oh, there's Jim.
Yep. Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me. I'm going to fill in for Becky, so I'll just do both roles on that and give you all an update on mostly the outbreak that occurred and just kind of walk you through it and then talk about SAR separately. But I think I'll do the presentation and then maybe have some question and answer on that just to keep it separate from search and rescue. Sound good to everybody? All
Very
right.
good, thank you.
Let's do it. I'm going to do a bit of a, actually, if I could ask Lisa to do a screen share.
Give me just a sec. I'll get you set up for that.
Yep.
Okay, Jim, looks like you should be good.
Okay, great. Can everybody see my screen all right?
Yep, looks good.
Great. Okay, cool. So just going to walk you through, so this occurred on August 31st that week. And so we did basically have a cluster of cases that tested positive. This was the most number of cases that we had in 1 week for this entire event. And we have created basically a pandemic danger scale that looks very much like the avalanche danger scale. We have really modified it to fit all of the pieces for how the state of Colorado is kind of classifying this outbreak. So for our particular local case, we've been in moderate since basically early June, and this bumped us up into what we would call the considerable scale. So what it's called is basically at risk and a controllable outbreak. So we have also created a public health COVID response group, and Becky Joyce is basically she's the operational leader of that. We have a public health nurse and now actually a couple of paramedics and EMTs who are assisting with testing. Basically, that group acts in response and then reports out to the greater incident management team. So we went into full gear, and the strategy for any cluster of cases or outbreak is called the 4 T's. So that's basically measure the transmission, test, treat, and trace. So that's basically find out what the transmission is. We test for positivity, treat them, which may be transporting, and then trace all the contacts that are related to it. And this all has to be done within 24 hours to break the chain of transmission. If it exceeds that 24-hour mark, then we go to the state to request further help, which can easily happen. A case of a cluster occurred in Ouray just about a week before, where they had to do contact tracing for up to 200 people, just to give you an idea of how quickly these things can scale. But basically, we were able to get all of this done in 24 hours. It's up to 17 people were tested. 30 plus people were interviewed as a part of the case investigation. It ended up 17 people were either quarantined or isolated, and 4 people were identified as positive. This was a good basically run through for our system, and things worked actually really quite well. We were able to get out at least 3 press releases and multiple social media posts, and there were 2 articles in the Durango Herald about that occurred within 48 hours on the event. Just some things to kind of redo. It ended up being classified more as a cluster of cases as opposed to an outbreak. But we were confident and comfortable with saying an outbreak because it was 4 cases that were within time very close to each other. But if you look at the state data, it actually won't be classified as an outbreak. With that, I am going to now just talk a little bit about continued testing that we've been doing. And we've got a very good testing system. Right now, it's really relying on people to request testing, but we basically have about 6 days a week where testing is available within the community. I also want to emphasize that it has been a multi-hazard summer. So as an example, last Monday, we had both a air quality alert and a winter storm warning in the same message on top of the COVID. So it's been quite a busy summer for us. And next thing I wanted to just mention is that Becky Joyce was able to get yet another grant. So this grant is a planning grant to help us get to the Protect Our Neighbor phase. That is one less phase on the basically on the danger scale, and we would be able to get as close to kind of a a normal reopening as we can get while we're under this whole pandemic situation. That's still months and months away. There is not a single county in Colorado that has been able to achieve that. And you actually have to apply to the state to get that, basically get that measure. So we'll have more information on that, but I wanted to just give you an idea that we are progressing. And as far as the pandemic goes, we still are getting good community cooperation, and we're working our way to that protect our neighbor phase. So I'm going to hold it there and just answer any questions and stop the screen share, and then I can just give you guys a little brief on search and rescue.
Thank you. Any trustee questions? An observation for me, I felt safe throughout the process. It felt like this was handled very well by the town and the OEM team. So thank you. Were there any particular lessons learned where the process would be updated for a second incident should one occur?
Yeah, I think the big challenge is actually the contact tracing. We were very lucky to have very good community cooperation with that. And it was a learning process. So a lot of the contact tracing is really asking people a lot of questions, and they can get fairly personal of like, where have you been in the last 24 hours? And who have you had contact with? So that was a big learning process. I think also the kind of, we went kind of right to outbreak. Next time we'll kind of gather a little more information, and we'll be able to communicate that. But we're still comfortable in kind of classifying it initially as that, because it was a very concentrated cluster of cases.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'd like to say, as we all know, Town Hall was affected by this, and our experience, my experience, it was handled really well and professionally. I also was asked to test that too, extremely efficient, professional. We had results within 45 minutes. And so compliments to all of the team that handled it. And obviously OEM, Tyler, the whole group that participated in containing this, Becky, of course. And special thanks to Kelly and Lisa Branner on staff who were with me throughout the weekend, helping with identifying who we were in contact with and generating press releases and communicating with the board, et cetera. So I think all in all, it was a good result for what could have been pretty scary.
Yes, Austin.
Just wanted to say your guys' communication with us as business owners has been really top notch. So thank you guys so much for that. Just was wondering if there's anything as far as words of wisdom you wanted to give to those listening at home, or to stay vigilant on this, or anything that you guys have learned to kind of tell the folks at home who might be listening.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great segue into understanding that this is going to be with us really into next year. Even if a vaccine is basically approved and distribution of that vaccine begins, we are going to be dealing with this for quite a while. So the whole bit of washing your hands, wearing a mask, social distancing are absolutely crucial for us to keep this under control. Kind of our business owners have been doing really a phenomenal job. And I really want to compliment everyone on that. I think it's also just another kind of reminder that we do have to just make sure that guests and visitors coming in are following our rules. And we know that people are coming from different states, they have different rules, but we have to just keep emphasizing that. And it does take a community effort. So, you know, I understand with restaurants, it can be really challenging, but that's just a part of training with staff. Okay, do you want to have any public questions on this, or should I just jump into the search and rescue?
Let's jump into search and rescue, and then I can poll the trustees to see if they'd like to open it up for public questions directed at you.
Okay, great. So I'm just going to do a real brief summary of how our search and rescue works, and just also a little bit on the funding. So I'm going to just do a screen share again, and let me see. Can everybody see that okay? Give a thumbs up. Okay,
Yep,
cool.
looks good.
So San Juan County Mountain Rescue, our mission is to save lives through mountain rescue and mountain safety education. We are the same organization as Silverton Avalanche School, and Silverton Avalanche School's mission is really taking that mountain safety education and communicating on how to reduce accidents and fatalities and injuries with avalanche education. The avalanche hazard is like the #1 natural hazard that we encounter in San Juan County. We're the second busiest service as far as number of calls, and also we have the longest duration calls. They can go from an hour to multiple days if it's a lost person. The sheriff has the jurisdiction for search and rescue in Colorado, and that's the state law for it. It is one of the lifelines that is tracked by the Department of Homeland Security in the state of Colorado. And it is all volunteer. We have about 30 volunteers in the group. And I consider it, as an emergency manager, very much the Swiss Army knife of the county. It's a lot of different skills and capabilities that our members can do. That prevention piece is really important. So that is carried out through Silverton Avalanche School. And then the funding is really mostly through the avalanche education. We have gotten just a little bit of funding, starting with the emergency services sales tax. Just from last year, we were able to just start getting that. We've only gotten a very tiny amount, $3,000, to help offset the cost of a snowmobile we purchased with a grant. We have not done any further requests from that with the whole COVID incident. We also get a lot of grants and donations. So there's one big state grant that we apply and are successful with every year, and then donations. The search and rescue group has actually been around since 1959, and the Avalanche School was established in 1962 by Sheriff Virgil Mason. And it's just a very long history of activity in our county. We recently, it's really been in the past about 8 years that we've been slowly merging with EMS. There's a lot of crossover. It's basically, if someone is injured out in the backcountry, they're going to need medical attention. So we've done a lot of cross training, and really our rosters are just about 100% crossover. So these photos just kind of exemplify that. With our logo is the same as EMS, and there's just a lot of equipment sharing and also personnel sharing. And I do have to say that we've got really good connection with both Ouray County and La Plata County. We actually have people who live in those counties that will come up and volunteer with us. And just to kind of exemplify that, just the picture on the left has both the ambulance, a ATV, mountain rescue shirt, and an EMS shirt underneath, just to kind of show that that cross training that we do. We also do a lot with Flight for Life, and you may have heard them last week. We just began our avalanche deployment training with them. And just to emphasize that avalanches are one of our main concerns in the county. So with that, we partner with Flight for Life quite a bit, and we're also a member of the International Commission for Alpine Rescue. We're one of 5 organizations in the United States that are members of that. It's mostly a European-based mountain rescue volunteer organization, but that's a really unique thing about us. And then we're also members of the American Avalanche Association. And this is just a historical shot of mountain rescue has been the DNA in our county for a long time. And that is the end of that presentation. And now I can answer any questions.
Thank you. Trustees, any questions for Jim?
Keep up the good work, Jim.
I've got one. In the Ski Town and Colorado Town leadership discussions that have been going on in preparation for winter, it sounds like, depending on the region, there's an expectation that we might see anywhere from 3 times to 10 times increase in backcountry travel this winter, with the things going on at all the major ski areas with reduced capacity and reservation systems, and the exodus from cities to mountain areas with remote work due to COVID. Has there been any talk yet about some type of winter planning task force to work on the prevention component? One very minor example that I think of is we've been promoting through the Silverton Avalanche School and other organizations the 3-1 radio frequency for use in backcountry travel to alert other backcountry travelers when groups are starting an ascent or beginning their descent. And you know, some type of big PR push to let our visitors know that that's a frequency they can use to communicate in the region. And I'm sure there's dozens of other things we could do, but a coordinated effort with search and rescue, CAIC, local forecasters, guiding organizations, the town, the county, even local ambassadors, I think could go a long way to seeing us not have a scary winter with that increase.
Yes, yeah, and that's a really excellent, and it's great you brought that up. We actually had a meeting with the state on Friday, and it was groups all over the state starting to plan for this. This summer, it was about a little over average. So I know on the Front Range, search and rescue groups it was like 5 times, 10 times the number of calls that they usually have. We are absolutely expecting that with this winter and the changes in the ski industry. Last spring, retailers sold out of backcountry equipment. So we're going to see a huge surge in use. The radio piece is definitely one that I will bring up because I think that's a really great one, and that has not been communicated yet, but I think that's really good. But there is going to be, like, we've met with CAIC and multiple organizations, so that's going to it's like in the works. So I can keep you posted on, and if you want to be involved as well, because we'll get the Chamber of Commerce to also help with that. But it's going to be both in the state of Colorado, but actually like throughout the West, it's going to be a huge issue.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm an avid backcountry traveler, and anything I can do to further promote safety in the backcountry, I would love to support.
Yeah, excellent.
Would the trustees like to open up public comment for Jim at this time, or should we keep cruising? Trustee Lashley?
I'd like to see us keep moving if that's all right.
General consensus? All right. Thank you very much, Jim.
Yep, thank you all.
Thanks, Jim.
All right, next we have updates from Fire Department as well as EMS by Gilbert Archuleta and Kimmett Holland. I'm not sure if there's a particular order we were planning for that. I'd defer to Administrator Ryder.
I see Chief Archuleta's up on the panelist, so let's let him go first. Gilbert, you may be on mute.
Now, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Yeah.
How's everybody doing tonight? I'm here to answer any of your questions that you have on our financials. The thing that we had this summer with the COVID-19 didn't really affect the fire department that much. We did have to take extra precautions. As busy as the town was with all the four-wheelers, campers, and everybody, I think we done fine. We didn't have near as many accidents as I thought we were going to have. We're still running with the ambulance on the motor vehicle accidents and working together. Other than that, I think everything is going good. Our intentions this year with the fire department is to keep our budget the same as it was last year. We are going to be asking for the county or out of the emergency service funds. We're going to be asking to add a line item to kind of help support us with general contracting. Everybody's having to put in more time in repairing equipment, maintenance, and just administration maintenance on trying to keep everything up to date. But that's kind of where we're at. If you have any questions on our budget, I'd be glad to answer them for you.
Trustees, any questions? Trustee Barella?
What is the status of the fire trucks at the, oh, come on, last year we met in Willie's office while you did the presentation. Was that with DOLA? What is the status on
the
that?
truck is, the status on the truck is we're approximately 3 months behind because of the virus, because the factory was shut down. They got the chassis built, the pumps on the truck. They'll start complete assembly and paint it and everything. And we're hoping within the next 3 months, we should have the truck here in town.
Thank you.
Yep.
The only question I have is, do you have the support you need from the town to continue to keep us safe? Is there anything else you need?
I believe we do. I think what we need to look at, or everybody does, and as the emergency service board meets and stuff, we keep talking about the sales tax at 2.5% that was voted in by the citizens of Silverton, how it should be used and spent, and that it needs to be continued to be used for what's needed today, not so much put in a savings account. And I think if that's used, we could keep the funds that we're asking from the town at a lower rate and from the county, from the general fund. Right now, we just need to utilize what we're getting and what the people voted on the 2.5% to give us the equipment, not only the fire department, but all the other emergency organizations.
Thank you.
You bet.
Well, unless we have any other comments or questions, I think we're great. Thank you very much, Chief Archuleta.
Okay, and just so on one closing note, just so everybody knows, one of our biggest things that the fire department pushes for is funds to be put into a retirement plan. The more money that's put in there, the more DOLA matches it's basically the only benefit that the firefighters get. With doing that, the amount that's put in, it has to come out of the budget, which is coming out of the county, which is levied at 0.5% of the mill levy of the county. So if we put in 45,000, we should receive about $28,000 from the state in matching funds. So it's something to continue right now. If you put 20 years in the fire department, you get $100 a month retirement. What we'd like to do is see that bumped up. All the other towns and stuff, I think the lowest one is probably Dove Creek, Colorado, and they receive $300 a month after 20 years. And it's something to give an incentive to the younger members that are joining. And if they put in 10 years, they would receive $150 a month. So the retirement plan is a big thing for the fire department.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you,
Thank
Chief.
you as well. All right, Kimmett, you are up, sir.
All right, good evening. Thank you, everybody, for the opportunity to do a little presentation tonight. I too have a PowerPoint that I'd like to be able to share if that's possible, Lisa. Are we ready to go with that?
So you should be a co-host at this point, and if you look at the bottom of your screen, there should be a share screen button that you can click,
Okay,
and that will pop up for you.
okay. Now I got to find my presentation, so. God, I had it all brought up here, so. Let me bring it up. Are you guys able to see that at all?
No, not yet.
Okay, let me try something else here.
Another option, Kimmett, is you can email it to me and I can share it. I don't know what would be quicker though.
I got it. Okay, now can you see it?
Yep.
Okay. All right. So I'll give a quick update, an overview on our organization and what we've seen this year as far as call volume, how COVID-19 has impacted us, a little bit of some of the training that we've accomplished so far this year and what our plans are for the rest of the year. Quick update on our budget and the impact by COVID, and talk about some of the purchases and grants that we've accomplished this year. So call volume. So far this year, we've had about 160 plus call outs this year. So this is a combination of EMS and mountain rescue calls, as Jim mentioned earlier. So we do all of that stuff hand in hand. And I did remember Trustee Ashley asking me how many calls are in the county and how many are in town. And about 75% of our calls so far this year have been in town. The others have been out in the county in the backcountry or so. So we're a little bit down this year in our call volume, but I can say that our January and February calls were at least double what we typically see in January and February. So to go to the mayor's comments about how things we may look towards this winter, we're really seeing a lot of it in the backcountry this summer. Things have increased a bit. Not as many accidents, OHVs, but a lot of hurt hikers and climbers and folks that have been sick. And so I totally agree. I expect this winter could be challenging. But then things died off in March through May. They were quite a bit lower, but as soon as we opened back up, so did our call volume. So we're just almost caught up with where we were this time last year. So COVID impact, I just want to reassure everyone that EMS is always prepared for infectious diseases, whether it's bloodborne or airborne. That is always an emphasis in our training. And so we always try to be prepared, but certainly with the way this virus is spreading and how it has impacted people in the medical world, it certainly is a big concern for our small staff. So we look at it that we are our community's last line of defense should we have a significant outbreak. There's alternative housing that we may have to come up with. And again, these are the worst case scenario, and God forbid we ever see anything like that. But should our hospitals get overwhelmed, we could find ourselves really stuck between a rock and a hard place. So we hope to that never comes to be with these outbreaks. We're continuously updating protocols as we in the medical community learn more. Our medical director has worked very close with us and with the state so that we're staying on top of what we need to keep ourselves safe and provide the best care should we have that. We did some N95 mass testing. We had to borrow the equipment because we didn't have any of our own. We do have our own equipment now to test. So we did some, and Becky was a big help with this. We borrowed some from Mercy Medical Center to do the testing. We got all of our folks, or most of our EMS mountain rescue folks. We got a large number of fire folks because we actually tested on the night they were around in training. So we were able to give that. And then of course, public health and the EOC. So as we go in the fall, we'll be doing hopefully another round of that here in the near future. And I'll be, once we can figure out a date that we can get our testers here to do the test, we'll let everybody know. PPE, something we always carry. We always have N95 masks, gloves, and eye protection and gowns. But we've upgraded to some Scott N100 masks, which are essentially like an SCBA mask that a firefighter would use. But instead of having a hose to an air tank, these just have canisters on them that will filter out the air. And then PAPRs, which is essentially a mask that you wear with a screen that takes ambient air and filters it through a pump and blows it through a hose and into the mask. So that's what we've got for our folks this year. That's kind of a step above for preparing for this. And certainly we have changed our protocols. A lot of times you'll see just one of us go in on a call. That's to keep people out and safe and limit their exposure. But of course, if patients are critical, you'll see all hands on deck. So I also want to add a big thank you to everybody in our community for stepping up and taking this seriously. Now's not the time to let our guard down. This is still out there, it's still growing, and it's still spreading. But we've done a really good job, and I'm really pleased. I feel like, at least what I'm hearing, as our economy has hung on pretty well this summer, and we just need to keep that going, because it wouldn't take much. The example that Jim gave about Uray just a week or two ago can happen in our town, and things could shut down quickly. So let's keep it up. And then again, publicly thanking Becky and Jim for all their hard work. It's amazing. what they've done. And our entire COVID-19 task force team, everybody that's been involved has really done an excellent job. And then a special shout out to 3 of our folks, Tyler George for his logistics and testing, and now Ryan Copenhagen and Cameron Kroll doing, helping Becky and those guys test those folks. So when you talk about those numbers that Jim was showing, they needed extra help for people to get tested, to get them all done within that 24-hour period and as quick as possible. Otherwise, potential more spread is happening. So big thanks to the community for their efforts. A little bit of training that we've completed so far. So we do our monthly EMS and mountain rescue training, the monthly helicopter rescue training. I understand from John, the town got a lot of calls on that. We'll try and do a little more of that stuff out of town. But when you see a helicopter around that's coming and going, that's probably just us doing our training. So we do avalanche and rescue deployment, and that's required once a month for folks to be able to utilize the helicopters for rescue operations. So typically that's on the first Monday of every month. I don't know if that's going to help on the calls, but that's usually what's happening when you see a helicopter around. We've also done some snowmobile rescue operations training. All of our career paid staff and some of our volunteers have done the Pro Avalanche Rescue course, which is an international certification. We do lots of technical rope rescue courses. We probably have had members doing 4 or 5 of those so far this year. And we did a swiftwater rescue awareness course in the spring. Also sent a couple of our guys to Denver to take a Coast Guard technical search and rescue course and probability studies on how to find lost people. And then finally, a couple of us are doing a advanced diploma in mountain medicine course through the University of New Mexico, their School of Medicine. Again, this is taking paramedics and doctors and nurses and training them on technical rescue. The University of New Mexico is one of those 5 other agencies in the United States that is a member of ICAR, the International Commission on Alpine Rescue. So we're heavily in that. So here are some more pictures of some of that. That's some of our swiftwater rescue training. That was sort of a swiftwater rescue, pretty shallow, but some people were stuck in the Animas trying to cross. Some more high angle rescue and helicopter rescue. And some, again, high angle stuff that we do down in Cascade Falls often. And upcoming training, we will continue our monthly trainings. We will do a winter version of the diploma in mountain medicine. We have a rope rescue patient care workshop coming up, avalanche rescue refreshers coming up, OHV training, and of course our normal EMS, paramedic EMT, CPR, ACLS, PALS, pediatric advanced life support refreshers coming up that we'll finish out the year doing. For our 2020 budget, we really, other than buying as much PPE that we can put together in case we do have the big outbreak, and that we can keep our providers safe and patients safe. So that's been a little bit of an increase on our budget. We have not, as Jim mentioned, been able to spend any discretionary funds. As I'm sure everybody is aware, everything was frozen once COVID hit. And so everything that was approved for this year for all the emergency services was frozen until we could review it after seeing what the COVID impact was on our local economy. And just a side note, EMS has not ever taken any additional funds from that discretionary fund pool that Jim and the chief were talking about. We have had some one personnel change that has had a little bit of an impact, but all in all, we were pretty well covered for that. So that's where we are budget wise. We did get a new ambulance. Hopefully we'll get an article in the paper about it pretty soon. Wanted to make sure all our paperwork, we were like Chief Archuleta, we were having to deal with COVID delays and a state grant and a real tight timeline crunch. So took a little longer to jump through all the hoops, but we did buy essentially a $200,000 ambulance on a 90-10 grant. So $20,000 out of our escrow, and the state paid $180,000 of that. So we picked that up in June and put it in service just before the 4th of July. It's got a larger patient compartment. It has a lot of safety improvements, including infrared cameras, safety seats. It's got an auto loading gurney, storage for rescue equipment. That's for rope rescue stuff. And then we bought some other PPE for extrication. So the fire department does the extrication, but we needed some stuff because sometimes when patients are trapped, we're in the vehicle with them while the fire department is doing the extrication. And we just needed a little bit of fire protection and some heavy duty helmets to protect our staff. So that was all part of that grant cycle. For 2021, we've already been approved for our new grant. This is a 50-50 grant. We are ordering a new rescue OHV that can transport patients. And then we bought some, or we haven't bought them yet, but we will be buying some training equipment, mainly airway mannequins to practice on that. So that's pretty much it, an update for us these first 8 months into the 9th month of the year. I would also, and I mentioned this to the town administrator, and I pretty much have mentioned this to every town administrator. I know, especially this year, we had a lot of new members on the board and a new mayor. But I do think at some point it would be very beneficial for every agency to be able to come at some point and do an overall view of the entire organization and some historical perspective. Jim gave you guys a little bit of that on search and rescue. And I think it gives you a much clearer idea about where were we, how far have we come, what's the future looking like, what's our 5-year plan look like, and how are we looking at how we can better serve our community. So I hope we get that chance to do that. And again, a big shout out to everybody who supported our emergency services sales tax. I know it was very controversial, but I think you're seeing some of the benefits of that with a brand new ambulance and a brand new fire truck, not to mention all the other things that have been purchased and all the training that has gone on since those were passed. So thank you for that. I'm open for any questions.
Thank you, Kimit. Trustee Barella? And Kimit, if you would close the screen share, we'll be able to see all the trustees. Perfect. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, so I have a few questions looking at the budget. This says actuals January to December of 2020. Would that not actually be till August?
It's you're right, Molly. So the way our QuickBooks are, it is the budget for that budget year, and the one that I sent out was updated on August 13th.
Okay, and then the grant that's in here under actual, the $175,117.76, that is what you received from the state in order to buy the new ambulance. Is that correct?
So no, that's not totally correct. I'm not sure. So most of the financial transactions for the ambulance took place later. The $10,000 budget was something that we get annually from the Southwest Trauma Advisory Board. That is just a standard thing. The state gives each RETAC, we're in the Southwest RETAC, $50,000, and that's divvied up by our 5 counties. So that is the money we use to pay for our quarters. The 175,000, we did get a PPP grant that we had not planned on. And so that was a little over $60,000. And then just, it was a clerical error of some sales tax that we received from the county. Just was a clerical mistake that added that money in there. So that's where that 175 got in there, but it's met with our bookkeeper today, and so that's being updated and will be fixed up. But yes, ma'am.
Okay, so there's actually only approximately 65,000 that came through on grants. Is that correct? Is what you're saying? Rather than 175?
Yeah, it's like 70, 75,000.
All right. And then my next question was under equipment, because you did have 5,000 budgeted, but you have 33,000. So you're saying that's where the money came from for the ambulance?
So some of these figures were in the middle of money coming in and money going out for grants. So yeah, we budgeted $5,000 for equipment, but we bought a lot more than that. So like as an example, our gurney for the new ambulance was about $40,000. So we had to pay that up front, but in the end, we will have paid about, again, about a 10% match on that. That's just an example.
Okay. And then just to be clear, who is the director of operations? Is that you?
No, I'm the director and Ryan Copenhagen is the director of operations.
Okay. And then you're the EMS director, full-time EMT. How many do we have? It doesn't actually show.
3.
3. Okay. And then the medical director, is that still that same person that you've used from
Yes.
Mercy?
Yes, that's
Okay.
Dr. David Hughes. He's an
All right.
physician in Mercy. Yep.
And I guess I'm a little confused if he's got let's see, full-time EMTs. So what is PRN EMT? Is that
They're
somebody
part-time EMTs?
part-time EMTs? So we've got how many full-time, 3, and how many part-time?
We have about 8 that are on the roster.
Okay, permanent. So why are there 1, 2, 3, 4 lines that are basically the same thing? Are you individually categorizing them? Because it says permanent part-time EMT, permanent part-time paramedic, and then it says PRN EMT and PRN paramedic.
Those are just think of them as job grades. So as an example, so a part-time EMT only works when we need them to fill a shift. Okay. A permanent part-time is a different category. It's a little bit of a different pay grade, but that is somebody that is part-time, meaning they only work 1 shift a week, but they're permanently doing that shift per week. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's why I was trying to figure out how many employees total there were overall and how many still come up from Durango Fire and Rescue to help.
Yeah, so if you want me to, so we have about 10, 11 part-time paramedics, and like I said, about 8 part-time EMTs. And then we have volunteers that still are part of the organization. And so we built this this system. You come on, you typically start as a volunteer, put your time in, and then if we have an opening for part-time, you take you get sort of promoted into that position. And then if there's a full-time position, we typically pull from that position. And again, it's just getting people trained and up to speed in our system. So ideally, if we're able to continue this, we have people that are stepping into the full-time roles that have a good bit of training and experience already in our system.
Okay, and one last question. Employee benefits and employee taxes withheld is only $8. I didn't quite get how, if you've got that many employees, that's why I was trying to figure out how many employees you had. How is it, is this a nonprofit and you're not taking taxes out? I guess I don't understand that.
Now, let me let Chelsea answer that. She's our bookkeeper.
Okay.
Hi. So payroll taxes is really what you are looking at as far as our total payroll taxes that the company pays. Employee taxes withheld is what an employee pays, and so that gets taken out of their paycheck. I can look at that line item and just see that like $8 is something that hasn't been balanced out of a paycheck that we did. So I have that line item out there in order to balance it out. So it should be at zero. I have like payroll, $4 worth of payroll taxes that went to Dave Austin, who's a PRN EMT. So he probably did a shift and his employee taxes for that month were $4. And so I just have to go in and say like, he paid his $4 and it balances out in our books. So really it's just kind of how I do my books and how I keep myself accurate. And so that whenever there's a number that pops up in there, that's just something that I have to go back and see what wasn't correct in the balance sheet. So, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, Molly, it's a health clearing account or a tax clearing account. We do the same thing at town. And sometimes there's a straggler that needs to be reconciled.
Yeah, exactly.
Any other trustee questions? Trustee Harper?
Yeah, good evening. I just, you had already answered a couple of my questions through Trustee Barilla. So I just want to say that was extremely detailed and thank you so much for all you do.
Well, thank you so much for your support, Jim. I just learned today about an incident that I'll give you a call tomorrow on if you're available.
Thank you.
We have a shared experience, so.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. I'll ask the same question that I asked Chief Archuleta. Is there anything that you need from the town or the community at large to better support your efforts?
Well, thank you for that question, Mayor. I feel, you know, we started this long journey 8 years ago, and we took over an EMS system and really a mountain rescue system that was really struggling. And we were really struggling. My first 4 years here was really a big challenge. We couldn't find a whole lot of volunteers. You know, we struggled. We were struggling financially. We were asked by the town and the county board at one of the combination meetings in 2017, what do we need to fix this? And everybody was invited. And you're lucky that you weren't there at that time, because it was about an 80-slide presentation to explain really what our challenges are and really what the fix is. And if we want a good EMS and rescue system, we would have to put these things in place. And we have prided ourselves on being very smart and thinking things through and taking it a step at a time so that we could make sure we're setting something up that's sustainable and successful. So in answer to that question, I feel like we're doing that. We've accomplished that. We just need to have the continued support that we've had. Again, our community, for coming together and supporting that initiative, has reaped benefits and has helped all these agencies in these really difficult times. I mean, literally, I never thought I'd see this town have to struggle through the wildland fires, the the snow apocalypse, and COVID, and we would not be anywhere where we are now unless we had the support and the financial backing that we've been able to get from our community. It would have just imploded, really, is probably what would have happened. So to have Becky and Jim to persevere and stick through some of the more difficult years and hang in there, I can't imagine if we had to replace them while we were going through some of this stuff would be really, really difficult. So thanks for that.
Thank you. Yeah, and thank you to all of our emergency services and the teams that our presenters represent and the emergency services that haven't yet presented. Thanks for keeping us safe.
Thank you.
Thanks, Kimmett. I can't tell. I'm trying to find the dinging. Someone's dinging if they could go on mute or somebody. Is everybody else hearing
That's
that?
me. I guess the Broncos are kicking off.
Oh, okay.
Sorry about that.
All right, well, thank you. If there's no other questions for Kimmett, we will move on to an update from Rebecca on behalf of the Silverton Film Office.
Hey, thank you, Kimmett.
Hi guys, can you hear me?
We can, thank you.
Cool. So thanks for having me tonight. I think most of you guys know me, but for anybody at home who doesn't, my name's Rebecca Berteau, and I'm the Executive Director for the Silverton Film Office. And I came tonight to just kind of talk a little bit about what a film office is, what it does, and how that benefits town. I wish that I knew how to use PowerPoint because the presentations were wonderful and I just haven't learned that yet, but I do know how to use Wikipedia. And I looked up the definition of a film commission on Wikipedia just to give you guys a quick blurb. It is a film commission are quasi-governmental, nonprofit, public organizations that attract motion media production crews, including movies, television, and commercials, to shoot on location in their respective localities and offer support that productions can accomplish their work smoothly. So that is one aspect of a film office, is to attract and promote film productions to come to your region. But another aspect that wasn't on Wikipedia, but to me is most important, is that a film office, especially like mine, runs similar to a chamber of commerce or an economic development office that's just geared towards the film industry. So our main purpose is to support local businesses through promoting our region to the film industry's location. So when productions arrive, the film office facilitates their efforts by acting as a liaison between the film industry and all units of government, business, and community, and provides information on and assists with logistics like lodging, meals, and locations. So that's kind of what a film office is. But what I do is kind of a three-step process. So the first process is to attract and promote. So I use social media, connections in the film industry, and film location promotion services. There's a few websites out there. One's called Locations Hub, one's Real Scout. And what those are, big, massive databases of all the locations in the world. And by taking photos and putting those up on these websites, somebody can type in, well, I want to shoot in a mine, a mine that is operational. And we very well may be one of 5 places in the world that has that capability. So that's how they would find us. So as I collect and represent locations, lodging, food, and other services, whether that's gas, hardware store, grocery store, and I have all of these assets, I can assure productions, because they've seen the photos, they want to come. I can assure them, hey, yeah, we can accommodate your projects. We have places for you to stay, places for you to eat, and all of your logistics can be taken care of with ease here. it's a little bit tricky in Silverton because we don't have Walmart or box stores or, you know, massive rental houses. But we've done really well over the last 4 years being able to accommodate those things by people like Molly and Austin Lashley being so incredibly good at catering for these film crews, because I call them and I'm like, hey, I need to feed 75 people by noon tomorrow. And they're right there with hot food, they've got it. And that's super important for the film industry. There's some rules about that I'll get into later. So another thing that I am wanting to do and have started to do is to guide local businesses and interacting with and providing services to these film crews. So that example right there, we have meals that we have to have every 6 hours. So if call time is at noon, 6 p.m. promptly we have to eat. And in the SAG-AFTRA rules, if we don't eat exactly 6 hours later, then the production company gets charged penalties, like a $50 penalty per person that goes onto their paycheck. So it's very, very expensive for them to miss meals. And there's lots of little weird quirks and rules and stuff like that. But I've experienced being a crew member for as long as I have, that I can help businesses locally navigate and be prepared for. Another thing I can do is rate the professionalism of crews. I've worked on enough crews that have been all different kinds, from commercial crews to tiny little budget crews. And I can generally tell pretty quickly from how they communicate, how quickly they get paperwork across, how professional they are. So in situations where maybe I'm not quite sure, I can possibly help mitigate some of the negative repercussions by warning businesses in town, saying, you know, hey, haven't seen this piece of paperwork from this crew, so make sure you get the credit card number when you take their order. Or, you know, it's just little things like that. So getting them here, I mentioned the locations library online. There's also a production guide that I offer them, which has a list of lodging, a list of places to eat, menus, pictures of the rooms, and they can kind of peruse that to see what they think they might be interested in using. But also crew. Sometimes they like to hire locals as crew. I think as we progress and more projects come, more locals will be hired as crew members. And then they're going to start building a resume, and it could very well become a very viable part-time job for them. When we have a crew in town, they make a great day rate for 5 days on a commercial, or 2 weeks on a short film, or whatever the case may be. And because our focus for the film office is to bring crews during shoulder seasons, because honestly, it really doesn't make sense to try and bring a film crew here in the heat of summer. There's not enough lodging, there's people all over the place. It's not the best time to bring them. If they're coming here in our shoulder seasons and spending money and hiring people, that's when we need it the most. And it's the most advantageous for them, it really is. So another thing I'd like to do is court location scouts and producers and directors. So I would like to find them on Instagram, Facebook, having communications about different locations, and say, hey, you know, why don't you guys come down for the weekend and check it out? Take them, drive them around, give them a tour, have them stay in one of our establishments, have them eat at several of our restaurants, and really give them a taste, because it's hard to explain this place without seeing it in person sometimes, I feel. And I think, you know, it's an easy sell. If I get them here, boots on the ground, it's an easy sell to have them come and bring their production here. And lastly, the point of getting them here is trade shows. There are international trade shows where people who work in film commissions, like myself, go and present their region to a whole bunch of producers. So the producers come, take a walk around, and you have like videos and printables, and you talk with them, you give them your contact number, you let them know about your establishments that you have for support and infrastructure, and hopefully you form some great relationships and they come and visit. So after we get them here, step 2, facilitating and liaising. The first question they ask is, where are we going to shoot? So that's about locations. I can help them before they get here by going to take specific photos of places. If they say they need a saloon, I'll go and take pictures of 3 and send them pictures, you know, like at the GI, we have this beautiful saloon, or I can turn the Buffalo Boy Tram House into, you know, dirty 1880s Roadhouse saloon. So I show them around to locations. They tell me what they're looking for. I provide options for them. And then after that, after they choose, comes the permitting and permissions. And this is actually why I wanted to talk to you guys tonight. This is a super important piece in order to make the film office successful, is these permissions and permitting. So I'll work individually with homeowners and private property owners and find out, you know, if they have any rules, if there's electricity and water on their property and stuff like that. I collect information on every single location that I have, and that helps me match up better. But I can get permissions from the private property owners, but there's still town permissions, county permissions, BLM permissions, and Forest Service permissions. That is one of my jobs, as you know, one of the bullet point parts of my job is to help with that permitting process. So Lisa Brainer and I have been working really, really well together over the last couple of weeks. We've had a whole lot of film permit applications come to you guys' desk, and they've been varied. One of them happened to be kind of like a feeler permit application. It was for a crew. They put it, a location scout put in a permit for 3 days for the entirety of Reese Street as a street closure, but really they hadn't done their tech scout yet. So they really only wanted to use 2 blocks of Reese Street for half a day, maybe a whole day, maybe a half a day. But the location scout wanted to give the town a heads up saying, we know we're going to need a permit. We just don't know specifically what that's going to be. But on paper, it looked confusing. It looked like they wanted to shut down the entire street for 3 days in a row. So I think that's where I was able to call Lisa and say, hey, so my take on this application after I see it is they just haven't done their tech scout yet. And they'd even written that in there. So just being able to translate some of the production lingo and how the process goes, I think will help a lot. If I can be CC'd on film permit applications, they come to you guys and then come through the town hall, I will provide as much insight and help as I can, and help facilitate, you know, make things as smooth as possible. I think in some ways, I was on the phone with the Boulder Film Commissioner this morning, and him and I were kind of giggling over the fact that we're like an extra paid employee that doesn't need to be paid by the town. So we're here to work and facilitate, but and completely ready to jump in and roll our sleeves up for the benefit of the town. But we are independent. I'm a nonprofit, so that's makes it easy. But anyway, okay. So the second question they ask is, where are they going to sleep? So I help them meet their film needs.
If I could jump in just
Sure.
real quick. Is there something with respect to the permitting process that, because you mentioned that was the reason you wanted to present this evening, was there something specific you wanted us to consider about that?
Yes, I mean, the permit's great. I've seen the permit, I've seen it filled out. It's all the right kind of information. It lets us know how many people to expect and for how long, and what their contact information is. With the permitting process, the reason that I wanted to bring it up was it's actually further bullet point, but yeah, the film industry is super dynamic. So things change at the drop of a hat. And sometimes the flexibility that is needed in order to accommodate that is difficult when it's got to go through a very long process, and some situations be brought before the board to be voted on 2 weeks out, and there's just no time for that. Sometimes they'll even call on the phone, on the plane, saying, hey, we're coming and we really want to shoot here. So if there's a way to streamline the process, or have administratively the option to make calls or reach out to you guys, not for a special meeting, but just like a quick thumbs up or something. The fact that everything is so dynamic and changes quickly is why I'd like to offer in my services to say, hey, I'll be the point of contact from the beginning all the way until they're done shooting. So that way I can oversee what's going on and let you guys know if something changes last minute that needs to be, that the town needs to be made aware of. Does that make any sense? The permitting process is great. I just think that we need to expect the quick dynamism of the film industry to make quick calls on, last minute.
Got it. Thank you.
Yeah, Molly.
Trustee Burrell.
That's something that you and Lisa Branner could really coordinate and work on, as she's the events coordinator, and this technically would be like an event, basically. It's putting that back into your wheelhouse, Lisa, since this is more of the scope of what you do, making sure that if need be, maybe we can create some sort of resolution that can move forward in order to move with the speed of what Rebecca is saying, that if something does change in the dynamic, that the two of you have to coordinate, because we've already passed a resolution that says that you would be the point for the town of Silverton, Rebecca for the film office, and things can move at a quick pace without having us all have to meet.
Can I speak to that question? So the way that our process has been working is that the film permit itself has been processed administratively by town staff. And that's been resting with me for some time, because as you suggest, Trustee Barilla, there is kind of a parallel there between the special events process. It's different, but similar. And we've been looking to have a single point of contact in town hall that all of that flows through, just to make it easy for everyone. Where we get hung up on occasion is with things like a request for a closure of a public right of way, or potentially facility usage that if we're looking at potentially reducing a fee on a facility rental, I'm not empowered to make those kind of decisions. Right now, all of our closures of public rights of way have to be approved by trustees. So I think there's a little bit of work we can do around the process and procedure for some of those things that will facilitate the process and make it easier for Rebecca to do her job and for us to actually bring these film crews here. And Rebecca, I would love it if you would just talk a little bit for these guys about the economic impact that the film industry can have for us, because I think that's really, when we talk about why is this important and why should we try to be film friendly, this is a great economic development strategy, I think, for our community outside of the realm of tourism. And so she and I have been talking quite a bit about that lately, and I just want to tee you up to give them that information too, because I think that's really important.
Sure. So yeah, I'll jump right into that. So in the last 2 weeks, I have booked $8,550. That is this coming week and the week previous, for 3 different film crews. That's just been short, tiny little projects that have lasted 3 to 5 days. And one of those is actually a repeat customer. They stayed at Shane's Hotel at the Wyman earlier this week, and we're so impressed with our visuals in the town and their experience here that they're coming back for a full week next week. So that's just a tiny little taste. But for example, one of the big ones, the Great Alaskan Race, we had 75 people on our cast and crew, and at an average of $75 per hotel room per night, being here for 6 weeks, it was $236,000 in February and March, which is huge. I've actually pulled the lodging tax numbers from 2017 and then comparatively 2016 and 2018 in February and March. And that year, February and March's numbers were the same as July's, or ballpark same as July's lodging tax numbers. So that can be a huge impact. And that was just lodging. That crew actually told me that they spent more money on meals, on food in town than they did on lodging. They didn't have exact numbers for me, but it's pretty substantial. Another thing that can happen and be an economic impact is hiring locals. McGillivray Freeman came into town to use Moelis as Sacagawea and Lewis and Clark expedition. They hired 17 locals for a 5-day shoot at an average of $200 a day. So that was $17,000 of extra income in October, which is a slow month. And it was huge. I had Tracy from the dump call me in tears and say, hey, I was able to buy snow boots for Sierra and pay my rent for 3 months just off of working on film stuff. So, you know, it can mean a lot. And those projects are short and sweet. Some of them are longer. But one of the nice things about the film industry is they use the resources we already have. Our lodging, our food, our hardware store, our gas station. And just like tourism, they come, they spend money, and then when they're finished with their projects, they leave. But the nice thing about that is that it's an income stream that's non-dependent on season or socioeconomic climate. The coronavirus pandemic actually has bumped the numbers for film production in Colorado because other states are closed down right now. So those are just a few impacts that can happen. And the more projects we have, the more development we're going to have. It's just specifically with the job creation piece of it. The more people work for a week or two on a project, the more we can say, hey, we have crew that you can hire, so you don't have to bring all of your crew from LA. And it just matures and ripens in a natural way like that. And I think the more it does, the more it develops like that, the more that we can start to consider it a viable branch of the economy. It's something that can blossom to that level. And it's going to take work, and it's going to take some flexibility, and some new things are going to happen as far as what am I thinking? Sorry, I just completely blanked. Yeah, so there's the direct impact that goes to our businesses and our locals that get hired as crew, but there's also indirect impact. For example, Climb Motorcycle Gear was here this week, and when motorcyclists all over the world see that commercial of them riding on Highway 550, they're gonna think, where is that road? I wanna ride on that road. And they will come here just because they saw their favorite motorcycle gear company with a commercial of this gorgeous road. So there's also the indirect impact for promotion and marketing for the town and the region itself. But really it comes down to our biggest asset is is being film friendly. These crews come back because we treat them well. That's why our region right now is one of the busiest regions for film production in the States, because we have been working hard. Lisa and I and Bruce and everybody else who's been involved with the film industry have really tried hard to put really good impressions with people. And so what they do is not only do they come back, but they go back to their film hubs in LA or New York, and they tell all of their friends, hey, you know, like if you want to shoot these beautiful mountain vistas, this town is really great. You should go and shoot there. So, you know, that's important for us, is to be film friendly, to be helpful. And I couldn't be happier than being here tonight and talking to you guys about this, because this is the industry I love. I've been in it for 16 years, but I love my town and I love all the people in it. And it's just, this has been a dream of mine. So to be here presenting, like saying, hey, we're finally open, you know, this is actually what I get to do, is it's just so incredibly heartwarming. And I think tonight my presentation was really to ask for your trust and know that I am Silvertonian, and I love this place and I love what I do for work. And I think that the impacts can be so great in a time where, you know, the last several years of tourism, we've had the 416 fire and then the avalanche, the snowpocalypse, as Kimmett called it, and now a pandemic. Like, this can help pay some people's rents a little easier, and, you know, just keep things turning the way that we like them turning. Does anybody have any questions for me?
Trustee Lashley?
Just to speak to your point of making those permitting processes a little bit easier, I feel like the public right-of-way closure, especially, is something that we could probably develop a procedure that would have maybe less oversight by the town board and put a little bit more into the hands of a process that could be successful without having to schedule meetings necessarily with us. I know personally from having done it who the major players are and who kind of needs to be asked, and that's our emergency services folks, especially for fire and our sheriff's department, the public works folks. And maybe we could develop kind of a system where those people are either contacted and filtered down through individual points, like our OEM contact, Jim Donovan, for example, for going through all of the OEM folks, and then or just a list of those people that need to sign off for approval in order to get those right-of-way pieces approved. The harder one is asking for fee reductions for facility rentals or other things. We've tried to submit a pretty good list of what it is, and I kind of think that one of the hard parts is if you're not able to get it in forward enough for us to see in front of the board, then unfortunately that probably costs a little bit more. But I'm interested to hear what other trustees feel about trying to kind of streamline that process, at least for film crews, if not for all special event applications.
Trustee Harper?
Rebecca, I just want to say you and I have worked together for years now, and I love what you're doing at the film office and for our town and county. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Trustee Brella?
Yeah, we've got to figure out a way. Like I said, that's why I was trying to have Lisa be that kind of liaison to town. But if it needs to come to a resolution, then that's what we need to do, because so that way we're not observing any sort of rules or laws or anything else that we have to take care of. So if we worded it correctly, then we can put it into the town staff's hand, And then only if something, I guess, is really drastic for a facility and or a fee reduction that you would come to us. Because most of this is, it's just about streamlining the process, making sure that you and Rebecca coordinate, everything goes off, an email blast, promoting this so people are aware, because the locals need to know that somebody wants to film on their street and they need to close it. So how do you coordinate all of that? What do you guys need moving forward? Maybe a checklist needs to be started, something like that. But I have full faith in staff moving forward and Rebecca to figure out this process and bring us a really streamlined document that we can move forward on. Thank you.
Lisa?
I might suggest that we have that Parks, Recreation, Events Committee that perhaps can work together with me on developing that. And also we can invite Rebecca to participate in that so that we're seeing it from the film industry side and can try to streamline. And we may very well, we've been talking about wanting to take a look at our event procedures anyway. So maybe those things happen at the same time. Maybe we can also get some feedback from some of our event organizers on how to make their lives easier. Bring it to the committee and come back to the group with some recommendations.
Yeah, Trustee Lashley and Trustee Rowe, those sound like great suggestions. Thank you also, Lisa. Is there general support for the Parks, Rec, and Events subcommittee working with Lisa and Administrator Ryder and Rebecca to develop both a procedure and maybe parameters under which staff would be able to have discretion for decisions like this? Cool.
Yeah,
Rebecca?
that's a great idea. I serve on that committee.
Okay, so I was going to say that with things like the notifications of residents on streets, those are the kinds of things that the film office can do to make the process a lot easier. I can go knock door to door, post notifications, make sure that the newspaper says something about it so everybody's aware. Those are the kinds of things that I can take off of your plate and put onto mine for sure. I was also thinking about putting together a work group that consists of somebody from town, somebody from the sheriff's department, somebody from CDOT, BLM, that we can maybe talk and workshop once a quarter about all of the film projects that have been through, and if there's any improvements that we can make, or if anything is going really, going very, very well. So we want to make sure we do more of it. But it sounds like maybe the Parks and Recreation meeting, that might be for a similar purpose. Lisa, would you say that was where you were going with that?
I was thinking of the board subcommittee more as helping with policy and procedure development. And then I think that what you're suggesting is a lot like an after action report, which we sometimes do in like emergency situations. We've done that as a staff to talk about events when things have just gone off the rails. What do we need to do to have that go more easily in future years? So I see them as kind of separate, but also I think what you're suggesting is very important and something that we should look at implementing as well. I don't see that as a board subcommittee, though. I see that as more a committee that you form through the film office.
Okay, great. And as you guys are looking over this policy, I think instead of having a unilateral approach to every closure or every rental or every usage of space that belongs to the town, the film industry is so varied. Every single project is going to be different. So if there could be like an expedited process, like if we could expedite certain requests for like a huge street closure, if I know about it in enough time to notify everybody who lives on the street, get the law enforcement in place to actually do the closure, the safety. If we had an expedited paperwork system, that might help a lot. because it would help, mitigate some of the process takes a week, but in this special situation, I need a little extra help. And that way it's not a huge change to all of the paperwork that you already have. I think cookie cutter approach is not going to be all of that suitable for the film office. And I think communication between Lisa and I has been like, okay, so that, this one project's going to need more of this, or this one project's going to be smaller or larger. That sort of communication will happen with every project.
Thank you. Yeah, I think this has been very, very educational for me, hopefully for the rest of the board as well. And if we pursue that kind of subcommittee Parks, Rec, and Events policy development, I think it would be really helpful if you were involved with that as well, to provide your expertise with that. So this has been really, really helpful, and thank you so much for everything you're doing for the town.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Rebecca.
So someone will follow up with you from the Parks, Rec, and Events Committee to help start scheduling those discussions.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you. All right, have a good night, guys.
Thank you. All right, anything on the consent agenda that any trustees would like to pull out for discussion or question purposes? And if not, I would entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda. Trustee Lashley.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Trustee Barella. Kelly, roll call, please.
Trustee Varela,
Yes.
Trustee Harper, Trustee Harper,
Yes.
Trustee Wager,
Yes.
Trustee Beerma,
Yes.
Trustee Lashley,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Barney,
Yes.
Mayor Furman.
Yes. Thank you. Administrator Ryder, would you like to highlight anything in the staff reports, or I'll just hand it off to you to walk through that section. Oh, I believe you're muted. Administrator Ryder, I think you're muted.
Sorry about that. Yeah, a couple of things. I just wanted to highlight that the mayor and I would like to do a joint town talk in the paper in an upcoming issue, just to talk about a number of the positive things that have gone on this summer and some of the challenges coming up. We feel like that if the message comes from both, that'd be a positive thing. The auditors have arrived and are off to a good start. The Finance Committee, we made an attempt to meet. I'll just briefly, we didn't get there, so we'll try to meet for sure before the next board meeting. I intend to give the board a really full-blown update on finances at the 9/28 meeting. The news is all good. We had the strong sales tax performance. As you know, we expect the same in August. And so financially speaking, and in particular the general fund, we are way off the dire projections earlier this year and really moving into some very positive ground. But details on that in a couple of weeks after we can get the Finance Committee meeting together. Staff is looking through August through December expenditures as we continue to keep an eye on those. But revenue is the big news, and it's good. Also staff is going to start framing discussions, from a bigger point of view. We had significant volumes of tourists this year, and remember that was with severe restrictions, no train, COVID, restaurant capacities, employment capacity, employee capacities issues, et cetera. And we saw volumes we haven't seen maybe in history. So trash, wayfinding, OHV usage, these things have really come to the forefront, and staff will begin broader and then more detailed discussions to present to the board on how to approach these and solve these, as the volume of tourism in Silverton, not only in summer, but as we just heard, growing potentially significantly in winter, we have some big infrastructure service things that we're really going to need to address. We have begun drafting the 2021 budget. I'll be putting out a schedule for the board probably sometime between now and October 13th, which is the deadline, the board meeting at which the board will approve a draft budget. This is a budget draft that'll address the bigger significant items. They should be pinned down, but really get you familiar with where we're at and begin to fine tune between October 13 and mid-December when we would approve the final. So I'll put a schedule out for you and suggest probably need to have a work session in between now and the draft budget approval, and we'll try to get that on the books. Grants Help Colorado Now awarded $100,000 in a joint effort between the school, Silverton Family Learning Center, the public health office in town. So each got $25,000 more for a variety of projects. That brings town's total out of that group to $60,000, which we've used to help with rent and utilities, and then the purchase of all the masks and sanitizers. Masks are at 42,000 masks and counting, all paid for with grant monies. I think we talked enough about the COVID outbreak, so you're fully briefed on that. Town, of course, town hall's back up and open fully. We did install some things to make the front area a little safer and more sturdy than the plastic we had up. Thanks to Kelly for arranging for plexiglass at a very efficient cost. And finally, for my report, Attorney Kosnick wanted to let you know that there will be a temporary sign ordinance / provisions that are addressing some of the concerns that have come out of residents in the county, town code versus what is constitutional right. Attorney Kosnick and others have been examining that issue, and we'll be making revisions, at least on a temporary basis, to our sign code to make sure we're adhering to some higher power rules and regulations. Let's see, going through, just noting in the facilities park and rec, we had pretty much a complete failure happening on the stairway to the visitor center. So it was a bit of an emergency expenditure, but we had to do that. They look great and should stand the test of time here for the next many years. We're going to be putting together in the 2021 budget, just to let you know, potentially a snowcat purchase from Jim Loki. He's gotten grant monies to purchase a new one, and his that he uses currently, which is a good machine, much better than the one we have. We're at the point of critical mass of maintenance, eating up all the time on our old Prineth that we have used for many years. So we're looking at a purchase through finance that will be included in the draft 2021 budget for you to consider. I'm working with Citizens Bank on that. Let's see. We talked about the film. We are working, Lisa Branner, myself, and John Seitz are working on a detailed Kendall opening plan. We're closely monitoring the ski industry and what they're going to do to open safely. Vail has kind of set the standard for that, for their operations. And so we'll try to mirror some of what they're doing, tailoring it to our own specific mountain, but we intend to open at this point. Lift maintenance is going on, and we will develop a plan to do that safely. I think that's it that I wanted to highlight for you, and would entertain any questions.
Thank you very much. Trustee Barella.
So I noticed in Todd's report, you touched a little bit on the visitor center. What was wrong with the water dispensing station? Do we know?
Yeah, from time to time, the software needs to be rebooted down there. Just a computer issue. Todd is on the phone if he wants to add to that, but as I understand it, it's just a software issue that on occasion we'll get the report that it's down and be dispatched to reboot and fix it. I shouldn't say fix it, it's just a reboot.
And how long does that actually take?
That I would refer to Todd. I don't think it takes long once we have a person on site. And I see
Can you hear me?
Todd. Yep,
Yep,
there
we
you
can
are,
hear you
Todd.
now.
Yeah, it generally depends on the nature of the problem. If it is a software issue related to the water station, kind of on the closed network, meaning like directly to our computer, it generally can take 5 to 10 minutes. If it's a credit card processing issue where they need to update the firmware or do something remotely, it can take up to 24 hours for that firmware to download and install.
So which was it that happened recently? Do you know?
This recently was it just was a reboot. I just had to
Okay.
go down there and turn it off and turn it back on again, and it came right back on.
Okay, thank you.
Any other trustee questions on the staff reports? All right, Administrator Ryder, thank you very much.
I have something I'd like to comment. I'd just like to thank the staff for the professional approach to the virus thing that we had last week. I thought that was handled very well within the town, and also a shout out to EMS, closing down town hall and everything. And I just think that was really well handled, and congratulate the staff on making it through the meat of the season. Hopefully now we can look forward to a slow swing into winter.
Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Wiegert. All right, moving along to committee reports. We've had a 3-week gap since the last regular meeting, so I imagine there are a handful of committee updates. Mayor Pro Tem Barney.
Thank you. I can go for Kendall. Our last meeting last week was primarily focused on a discussion that we're having, sort of been ongoing, but we took some time to discuss lessons learned from conversations that we've had explicitly with operators and municipalities all over the country, Crested Butte, Telluride, let's see, Hellison Hill, a couple others, to just learn about what their process looked like and what went well and what didn't go so well. So that committee's meeting weekly now, and this week it'll be tomorrow at 3 o'clock. And that's a really easy meeting to attend on Zoom. And then it alternates Tuesdays and Wednesdays at 3 o'clock.
Thank you. I can present on behalf of the Master Plan Committee. We had our first full committee meeting since adding Elizabeth Bars and Sue Morris to the committee. And at the first meeting, Patrick Rondinelli from the Department of Local Affairs provided a presentation about the resources available to the town of Silverton and San Juan County with respect to the master planning process, and introduced the committee to representatives from the State Demography Office, and also suggested a comprehensive plan training that DOLA provides. And we've scheduled a State Demography Office presentation for September 22nd at 6 p.m. And everyone is invited, particularly the trustees, the staff, the county commissioners, county staff. It's also going to be broadcast on Zoom to the public for anyone that would like to watch. And they're putting together a presentation that's specific to the demography of Silverton and San Juan County. And then we've also scheduled a comprehensive plan 101 training with the Department of Local Affairs. That's going to be on September 29th at 6 p.m. And again, that one is an invite to everyone, particularly the Planning Commission members. Was recommended by DOLA to try and attend if possible. And that one should be really interesting. And it's about the resources available to the town and county in developing a comprehensive plan and how we can make progress while the amendments to or revisions to the master plan are in process, so that everything lines up nicely and we're not duplicating work. So yeah, upcoming meetings, September 22nd, September 29th, both at 6 p.m. Trustee Harper.
Thank you, sir. Will that information be emailed out to the public?
Yeah, so all of those meetings will be publicly noticed. The September 22nd notice is already up on the town website, and there will be distributions to the Planning Commission and the trustees. We could ask Lisa to post this on the town website as well, or the town Facebook page. But I think this is really helpful information for everybody.
So those will be emailed out to the public, though?
I defer to Lisa on that.
Okay. And then the same thing with the Kendall Mountain Committee tomorrow and the follow-up meetings every other, that'll be emailed out to the public as well?
I also defer to Lisa. I'm not sure. I think those are put up on our town website.
When you say emailed out to the public is, sorry.
I stepped away for a quick second, but was still listening. Typically our committee meetings, I don't think are noticed in the same way as trustee meetings, but they are open and available to the public. The agendas are all posted to our website. And they're posted on the front door of Town Hall as well. Kelly and John can chime in here and correct me if I'm mistaken on any of that.
That is correct.
I was just going to say the same thing that Lisa did. So,
Trustee Harper, did you have a suggestion of how we can better alert everybody about these meetings so that they can be aware of them and participate if they'd like?
Well, my suggestion was through the email process, possibly through the Chamber's vast, the Chamber of Commerce vast email outlet. I'm just thinking that people should be involved. People should know. Folks should know. So.
Sure. Any tools we have available, we'd love to use all of them.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Lisa?
If I might also let the board know that we are working on putting an email platform in place that allows us to more easily email all of our constituents. That's been in progress for a while. I did just speak with Administrator Ryder a week or so ago and get approval to actually purchase a plan. And so that is forthcoming. I think some of the challenge that we have right now is that we're just using our regular email program in Outlook versus using something like MailChimp or Constant Contact. And so that's what I've been researching, and that will be implemented shortly. So I think that will smooth out communications with the public as well.
I would also add, Trustee Harper, that if someone is willing to make a specific request, and we've had this for town board agendas and meeting packets, if they provide us with an email, we absolutely put them on a list. And so town board packets have been requested. And so we have a list of, I don't know how many, Kelly, 40, 50 folks that have actually sent in their email addresses and made a specific request, and we do accommodate that as well. And they could do that for any of the meetings.
Yeah, I have a list of about 20 people, and then like when the chamber does anything that she wants to send out to the business, she'll send me directly what she wants, and then I just blind copy everybody and send it out.
That's what I'd like to see.
Awesome. Well, Kelly, I apologize for your inbox tomorrow, but anyone listening on Zoom or YouTube, please email Kelly. Her email is listed on the website if you'd like to be added to the town distribution.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Good catch. Any other committee reports, Planning Commission, anything else that's come up in the last few weeks? Trustee Barella?
As Mr. Ryder announced that we attempted to have a meeting for the financial committee, and Mr. Harper and I did show up to the office to make sure that we were, I don't know, caught up and well-versed on what's happening when the auditors were coming and how the sales tax numbers had come in, and just a plan for what the next meeting was going to be out on the 28th, so then all trustees would see the financial scope of where we're at the moment. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Moving along to trustee reports. I've got a couple quick bullet points. Governor Polis sent a letter to all the Colorado mayors asking that we do what we can to support COVID-related winter business initiatives. There are a bunch of towns talking about keeping their bump outs into the winter. There are a bunch of towns that see huge administrative issues with doing that with respect to snow removal specifically. But I know that the town, and with Administrator Ryder's leadership, has been looking at lots of plans for the winter and how we can best transition for a COVID appropriate winter experience with increased tourist numbers coming. There also is a CDOT grant that was emailed around by CAST, the Colorado Association of Ski Towns, that relates to Main Street revitalization, which can support space heaters, tents, and other things like that. And I know that both Administrator Ryder and Kim White with the school are looking at those opportunities. On a totally different topic, but still somewhat COVID related, we've seen a huge boom in real estate this summer. Talking to realtors in town, maybe not so much the total number of transactions, but certainly the duration with which properties are on the market is reduced, and the prices are rocketing up. And the realtors have mostly identified COVID and the ability to work remotely as responsible for that boom, and that's happening all over rural America. And as a result, I've been hearing concerns by citizens talking about the issue of people potentially getting forced out of town because of rising real estate prices. People on fixed incomes not necessarily being able to continue to afford their property taxes. And something that Administrator Ryder and I were brainstorming about is the possibility of property tax abatements for people on fixed incomes, such as Social Security, as well as property owners that fall below a certain income threshold. That would require a bunch of research between the town and the county and a coordinated effort. But it sounds like that's something the town and the county are at least open to looking at. So that would be a nice way to begin to address some of the issues we're seeing as a result of COVID and the desirability to live here in places like here. And then my last update is that since the election, I've been hosting office hours every Wednesday from noon to 2. I'm going to switch to an alternating schedule with every other week being a live coffee hour from 1 to 2 p.m. at the Coffee Bear. And so the first one will be on Wednesday, September 23rd, a week from this coming Wednesday. So anyone who'd like to come and have a chat, I will be there for an hour. And if you don't show up, no offense, I'll just be doing work. And if you do show up, we can have one-on-one talk, we can have group discussions, whatever anybody would like to do. And that is all I have. Any other trustee updates? Okay, so moving on to new business, we have consideration to approve grant application for Jim Loki for grooming at Mullis Lake. I'm gonna kick that one over to Administrator Ryder.
And I will kick over to Todd Bove after a brief preamble here. This is a grant program that Mr. Loki has applied for years and been successful for years. The monies are used primarily for him to own, maintain snow groomer and perform snow grooming operations at Mullis Lake. It requires town signature as part of the grant application process, which we have done historically. And he is here again for the same grant program. And I believe Mr. Loki and Amy are on the phone, so I would let them give a brief overview and just to brief the board on the reasons town would be signing this and maybe a little description of the program. It's important. They do a great job. And with that, I will turn it over to the Lokis and Todd.
Jim, would you like to speak?
Okay, thank you for having us tonight. Am I on?
You are on,
Hello.
Jim. Yeah, you're on.
Oh, okay. Okay, yeah, thanks for having me. On the table helps the purchase of the new snow cab up at Mollis with the Silverton Snowmobile Club. And the second is an operating grant, which is about 28,000 that goes into grooming the trail system up at Mollis and all contracting to the town of Silverton to do Deer Park and down below on the River Road and up Cunningham Gulch, and then we can actually go as far as Animas Forks once the avalanche is clear in the spring. These monies bring in a lot of people that use the motels, the lodging, the gas stations, the restaurants. It's a good economic impact for winter. This is a typical formality that we go through every year, where we always look for the town's support on towns properties such as Mollis Lake, where we do the grooming up there, which also extends into some BLM and down here BLM as well, where they all connect. Across the parks on across Stone and the snow clubs are all one together to bring this into having everybody take a look at it being part of.
Hey, Jim, sorry to jump in, but we're having some digital garble that's making it hard to hear you.
Supporting that economic impact for the winter. Start over.
Oh, no, I mean, it may be the connection and we may not just be able to get there, but I think we got the general idea that you guys are doing an awesome service for the town and county and that this has a positive economic impact. And I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I'm afraid we may not be able to understand your connection this evening.
The reason for signing the grants is the approval of using town properties for part of the grooming, which Colorado State Parks and Colorado Snowmobile Association, along with the Silverton Snowmobile Club, we all need to be approved to all work together on that.
Wonderful, thank you. That came through clearly. Yes, loud and clear.
Yes.
Well, any questions for Jim or Todd or Administrator Ryder? And then Trustee Lashley.
Yeah, just
these guys do an amazing job of keeping these trails groomed, and it's great multi-sport access for a whole lot of different user groups. And we thank you guys for your service. This one's pretty clear and cut. Yeah, if anybody else has anything to add, we should move this forward to a vote and a motion here soon.
Mayor Pro Tem?
I agree with Trustee Lashley. I'm happy to move it forward, but also really grateful to have a chance to just say thanks for what it's like up there in Mullis. It's so fun. It's such a amenity for us in the winter, and it's makes that place really accessible and enjoyable for all kinds of people, and I love it.
Great job, Jim.
This is Todd. If I could just chime in for a moment. I also would like to thank Jim for all the hard work that he does to keep these programs going year after year. There's a significant financial impact from all of this, and it's a wonderful Parks and Recreation asset for the town. So thanks, Jim, and I just wanted to offer up my support for both of these grants.
Thank you, Jim. Thank you, Todd. Trustee Lashley.
So I guess we're probably looking for a motion here, right?
Yes,
so
correct.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the grant application for Jim Loki for grooming at Mullis Lake.
All right, thank you, Trustee Lashley, for the motion, and thank you, Trustee Birma, for the second. Kelly, if you could roll call, please.
Trustee Borrellis?
I need to recuse. I am acting treasurer for the Snowmobile Club. Thank you.
Trustee Harper?
Yes.
Trustee Wager?
Yes.
Trustee Birma?
Yes.
Trustee Lashley?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Barney?
Yes.
Mayor Furman?
Yes. Well, thank you very much, Jim. All right. Moving on to this next item came up as a result of the special meeting last week. We realized that it isn't the normal town protocol to allow for public comment at the open and close of a special meeting, just a regular meeting. And so the question was raised whether we should consider allowing for public comment at all trustee meetings that are open to the public, similar to this meeting.
And to add some flavor to that, if there's a public hearing of any sort scheduled in a meeting, whether it be regular or special, that requires public comment. So traditionally and historically, we've allowed public comment at all of our regular board meetings, regardless of a scheduled public hearing or not. So it's really the board's choice to open up further meetings to have a public comment section. Obviously, they can be very helpful, balanced against the issue at hand and time of length of meetings, et cetera. But it's purely the board's choice, except when there's a public hearing actually scheduled, in which case it is required. So that's the context for the discussion.
Mayor Pro Tem Barney.
I support public comment in all meetings.
Trustee Wiegert.
I'd just make a comment that historically we have not allowed public comment during work sessions because that time is viewed as time that is specifically devoted to productivity for developing policy and protocol with the trustees in particular. So I think we should be very careful if we're just going to blanket this all meetings open to public comment, because especially work sessions, we try to keep those short and sweet, and there may be times when we do want to solicit public comment, but it may not be at every single workshop.
That's a great point.
Thanks, Trustee Wiegert. I guess I should have said at special meetings.
Trustee Lashley and Trustee Harper raised their hands real quick. I see Trustee Barella's hand as well. If we want to go in that order.
I'd like to hear from these other guys here first here.
Okay.
I was just going to agree with Trustee Wiegert.
Cool. Trustee Barella.
You.
Yeah, I agree with Trustee Wiegert. There's a time and a place for public comment. And when we're down and dirty in work sessions, we're trying to accomplish something. Hopefully we've already had the public comment by either that point or when we're moving forward to make it into a resolution and or an ordinance. We open it back up to public comment in case there's anything else we missed. So there's plenty of times in the right situations where public comment is necessary and it's viewed as good input and helpful, but then there are other times when you're just trying to get into the meeting that it's not productive and it can slow down meetings and we don't always accomplish what we need to. So yeah, special meetings and historically have never had public comment and neither have work sessions. So I agree with Trustee Wiegert on that point. Thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Wiegert, were you suggesting not to have public comment in special meetings as well, or just work sessions?
I'm just saying that we should be very careful if we're going to make a statement where we want to open up every single meeting for public comment.
Thank you for the clarification. Trustee Lashley?
Yeah, I think that a lot of the regulations that we have for public comment come from a vast set of experience. However, I do think that there's some special circumstances where I think that it historically has been kind of called on or allowed. During our budget work session, sometimes we have members of the public who have done a lot of research and have things they would like to present or comment on. And I think that that's one area in particular that I think we should allow public comment or maybe open that up in our budget work sessions. And I don't see a huge net loss by allowing public comment, say like the beginning and end of the meeting. Maybe for work sessions, we limit it to, we can limit it to 60 or 90 seconds if we wanted to, but I also kind of support Trustee Barney's sentiment that public comment is always a good thing, and getting more information from the public and more engagement from the public is generally not bad.
What I'm kind of hearing is that how we have it right now, where we have public comment at all regular meetings, is good, and that other meetings we should consider that on a case-by-case basis. And this maybe is a topic we can spend more time on when we schedule our board workshop. And maybe there's a more specific way to define when public comment is best utilized. I think this was a helpful discussion. Thank you, everybody. Mayor Pro Tem Barty.
Well, just to add one, because I made such a blanket statement, I would just clarify that I agree with Trustee Wiegert and Barella that work sessions should be efficient time that we use to work. And I agree with Barella that we get input on either side of those in other ways. But more the thinking behind my special meeting public comment is to just encourage participation and engagement.
Would it work to provide Administrator Ryder with kind of the ability to determine on a case-by-case basis when those special meetings are appropriate to include public comment so it can be included in the agenda ahead of time? So for example, when a special meeting is required because there's a timely issue that can't wait until the next regular meeting, some of those topics are kind of just blanket administrative things that may not require public comment, and that would just extend the meeting unnecessarily. And then others may be helpful to open up for discussion. And if we don't indicate in the agenda ahead of time that it's open for public comment, like Mayor Pro Tem Barney said, we may not get participation. So would we be comfortable kind of giving that power to Administrator Ryder with respect to special meetings? Trustee Brella?
Special meetings, but not work sessions.
Mhm.
Great, awesome. And to be further defined in the workshops as well. Does that sound good to you, Administrator Ryder, or any suggestion or input there?
Yep, that sounds fine.
Okay, great. Any other input before we move to the next item? All right. Discussion regarding revocation of ordinance 2020-04 regarding the utilization of public right-of-way for outdoor dining. And this also relates to the Governor Polis letter.
Yeah, so if I may, and the ordinance is in the package too, just as a refresher, but the ordinance is in place until the board decides to revoke it. So for this meeting, I'm not sure you have to make that decision, but we wanted to make you aware. The governor is asking for municipalities, counties, towns, cities to consider ways to strengthen the winter economy and promote it. And one of the ideas that would certainly apply to us is the continuation of the bump outs. You know, at some point we probably can't with our winters, but for the time being, and then extended, you know, through the beginning of December, if the weather remains nice and restaurants remain open and are favoring keeping their bump outs, that would be my suggestion, is to, you know, literally we can consider this on a month to month or a meeting to meeting basis, but I see no reason from my advantage or my vantage point to revoke it at this time and to leave it at the option of the restaurants. If they would like, they and decide to shut down for the season or don't want to do the bump outs, we can come and get the barriers, and that's that. But if some restaurants choose to keep going and the weather is favorable and it works for them, we can leave it going. We had nothing but favorable commentary and positive result from it this summer. Oop, you're on mute.
Thank you, Trustee Barella.
I guess my only major concern is going into the winter is the accommodation that we need to make for our equipment to plow the roads. So we all know how hairy it can get. We all know how thick the snow can get on the street, how wide the berm in the center can come. So in fall, definitely I'm in favor. Obviously, inclement weather, you've got to do what you've got to do. But when we really get into the meat and bones of wintertime, I really have a concern about them being in the right of way in order to not make public works job more taxing than it already is to have the snow out of the way by the time we try to, you know, open our businesses in the morning. So if we're going to make it a permanent thing, then, you know, I mean, now I'm speaking not as a trustee, I'm speaking as a business owner. I would invest in, you know, $10,000 to $15,000 into one of those parklets. I had already checked into it prior. So I'd be more than willing to invest that to make it look like what downtown Durango is doing as a business owner. But, and I would have to store that come winter time. And that's a consideration as a business owner that I would love to do, to see it going further. So I'm not in favor of revoking it, but I think we need to have an in-game time frame just for public works, so they know when things are going to be off the street or what our plan is moving forward. If people want to keep them, how are we going to keep them clean? How are we going to keep that pushed into the public right of way in order for the loaders to come down through the streets, so that eliminates the maintainer from hitting the edge. So because we've got the bump out. So a little more input. Sorry, did I disappear? think I hit my thing there. A little more input from other members of the board on what they're feeling about Public Works' ability to deal with this if we do leave them up for winter. Thank you.
Thank you.
I would say from the administrator's perspective, sorry, Trustee Lashley, yeah, definitely have to discuss this with sites and how he feels it's going to be an unpredictable thing. You know, we usually have warning for the bigger storms. Yeah, I would maybe suggest a date, December 1st as an outside date, but you know, we can get the early storms and so forth. And I need to talk with him about reaction time, and if we get caught with a big one with just a couple days notice or something, you know, how do we handle it? Those type of important details, because we all know they can come in fast and furious from time to time. And one day 60, the next day 24 inches of snow. So that would be that's the big risk from the town and Public Works standpoint that I see is a surprise snowstorm and digging out of it.
Trustee Lashley.
Thank you. I've been really impressed with the bump out scenario that we've had through the summer here. It's definitely really allowed a lot of businesses to maintain a certain portion of seating that COVID-19 has cost them. I think that it's definitely prudent of us to wait for the larger conversation with John Seitz to talk about having this in the winter and the potential problems that this could have. But just as a perspective of a business owner and a restaurant owner, we look at our sales and then we divide them by number of seats. And if we're looking to increase our sales, it's a pretty static relationship between the number of seats you have and the money you make. So when you increase seats, you increase revenue, which increases sales tax revenue as well. And that's an important factor, I think, for us to consider as well going into the wintertime. And especially it's pretty unlikely, I think, that we're going to have full capacity in seating in restaurants still. So I think it's worth having this discussion in the future with sites, but I would like to see what we can do to try and keep these bump outs and seating areas open in the wintertime if it's feasible to do it.
Administrator Ryder, is there, and this is probably a John Seitz question, but is there the possibility of switching the bump outs to the sidewalk to clear the streets for plowing and then to keep a plowed sidewalk, if you will, in the street or something like that?
Yeah, I just actually wrote that down as an idea to talk with him. You know, in a pinch, two things: could the business owners take responsibility for just pulling and stacking their barriers on the sidewalk during snow removal times? You know, if town staff is tasked with actually snow removing, or yeah, could we put them on the sidewalk and do some kind of detour around in the street? Those good topics that I will take up with sites and McDougal and others to see if something like that's viable.
Well, no matter what, I think we're going to all have to get pretty creative this winter.
Yeah, I agree with Trustee Lashley. Just as I said, not a negative comment at all about the bump outs, and the businesses that were able to utilize them really helped a lot. And I think no COVID, people just really enjoyed sitting outside and admiring the scenery and enjoying the weather.
Trustee Lashley?
Yeah, just from the public health perspective as well, you know, the more that we can keep people outside and open air too, hopefully, you know, the better we can mitigate the effects of COVID into the winter here.
Well, from the few people that spoke, it sounds like there isn't an interest in revoking the ordinance today. It looks like weather's pretty good for the next 2 weeks. So do we want to defer to Administrator Ryder and John Seitz in terms of their recommendations going forward and just keep revisiting this at each meeting until it becomes more relevant weather-wise? Trustee Harper?
Yeah, I just wanted to comment. I like your idea. I think we should address it every 2 weeks until the end of the season. I say we keep it going as long as possible. It's beautiful. I love it. It's nice seeing all the people. We need the business. We like it.
Mayor Pro Tem Barney?
Yeah, I totally agree. I hear Trustee Varella's point about if businesses are unsure about what's going to happen in the next 2 weeks, and then that uncertainty makes it hard to decide how they invest or what, I am not a business owner of a restaurant on Main Street, so this does not affect me at all, but I just wanted to acknowledge that point makes sense to me, and to create some certainty if possible seems like it could be helpful, but I'm not in favor of revoking, certainly at this time.
Thank you. Administrator Ryder, do you think it would be possible to give it a best efforts intent to provide 2 weeks notice to business owners before shutting it down? Is that a reasonable thing to try to do?
We can try for sure. Like I said, it doesn't happen all the time. It's just, on the occasion that the crazy one comes in fast. But yeah, no, I think 2 weeks is a reasonable time.
Any other discussion or clarification on this topic? Trustee Brella?
Well, according to the email that I got today from Margaret Bowles with Casks, there's still that CDOT money available to improve your outdoors. I'm not sure exactly the verbiage on it. Mr. Ryder was looking into it already. It's from CDOT. They're talking about being able to help provide tents and the space heaters to go inside the tents. We also need to make sure that if we do pursue this grant, who's going to benefit from it, because we've got individuals that are going to stay open this winter and we've got other restaurants that aren't. So we need to make sure if we're getting, I don't know, if we're going to go for the grant, we go for 3, who are the 3 or who wants to participate in this. So that's something that I think staff needs to determine, I guess, based on your license, your business license for restaurant owners who wants to continue with it or not, if they pursue this grant money. So I don't know if any of you are signed up with CAS. So easy, just to contact Margaret, get your name on the list with your trustee email, and she'll give you this information directly. It used to come through, I think Michelle used to send it to all of us. And I just met Margaret at one of the CML conferences, so I signed myself up individually. So I recommend, if you guys haven't been a part of it, to put yourselves out there and get a hold of Margaret and get your name on the list.
Thank you. Yeah, CAST also just distributed a survey of other mountain towns and what they're doing with respect to providing tents or supporting tents and space heaters and things like that. I think Administrator Ryder has it if anyone didn't get it and would like a copy of that. All right, Administrator Ryder, anything else on that topic?
No, Mr. Mayor, I think that is it.
All right, opening it back up for public comment this evening. If anyone who is participating would like to speak, please click the raise hand button and we will promote you to a panelist. I see one hand from Melody Skinner. Melody, the floor is yours. You have 3 minutes.
Hey, if there's anything that has worked out well this summer, it's being able to eat outside in the streets. And if you think back before COVID, if we would have started talking about this, it would have been a cutthroat discussion. Everybody would have been at each other and what have you. But this is one of those things where everybody has worked together for the betterment of our business owners, you know, the town, for the betterment of the tourists that enjoy sitting out there and looking at other businesses and the sky and the mountains. And I think it's wonderful. And honestly, I think we should keep it forever in some form. So I just wanted to say thanks.
Thank you very much. All right, I see a hand from Gary Davis. Gary, the floor is yours. You have 3 minutes.
Oh, I don't need 3 minutes. I don't know if you guys could hear me screaming at my computer screen earlier, but that's okay. Man, I would be sitting in the front row watching you guys, and Melody and me might be the only people in the place paying attention, but we are paying attention. That's all I got to say.
Thank you, Gary. I do not see any other hands raised. For all public, we will be going into executive session, and then we will be reopening the public meeting following the executive session. I do see one more hand. I'm going to finish the statement, then I'll go back to that public person. You're welcome to join us for the close of the meeting following the executive session, but that's typically just in order to adjourn, so you may not want to stay up for that. Before we move to that, though, I'm going to allow Cole to talk. Cole, you have the floor. You just need to unmute yourself. We can hear noises now, but you're garbled. Your connection seems to be bad.
Can anybody hear me?
We can hear you now.
All right. Okay, I'm here. That's good. I want to say y'all have been doing really well. I have no complaints and everything else. I really hope that you guys continue to do what you guys are doing and move forward to what you are doing on schedule, and keep that budget going as well. The budget looks beautiful, is what I can tell. And that's all I have to say. Thank you, guys.
Cole, thank you very much. All right. So with that, we, based on a suggestion by staff, instead of asking everyone to leave, we'll just be ending this meeting. We'll be taking a 5-minute break, and then just the trustees and Administrator Ryder will be rejoining, at which point we will entertain a motion to move into executive session. So it's 9:44 right now. If everyone could log back in to Zoom at 9:50, that would be great. So see you all in 5 minutes.